I'm right with the player empowerment era, but we've never been like deeper in the thick of it. And it starts in high school, and then it moves to college now, and then it's in the league. It's the players really are the ones that they want to keep happy. We see it in every sport, right? It's if you got a Josh Allen, right? What did they just do in Buffalo? They came to the podium, told us that it's time to make a change. And what change did they make? They just transferred their offensive coordinator into the head coach's room, and it's because Josh Allen was right there. And look, I don't know that How do you feel about that? I don't mean to like veer off of the fact that
let's get to the head coaching carousel.
That they give a guy like, how many guys in the league, like, I mean, there's got to be a couple, right? I think Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady probably elicits a little bit of trust in you where you feel like, all right, they're going to be here for the long haul. This is their team. It would be beneficial for us to play to their strengths with a guy that they're comfortable with. But how many guys are there really like that in the league? Is Josh Allen in that group?
I don't think any of them should be able to make the final decision. Okay. And that's kind of what it feels like in Buffalo. That Josh Allen hand-selected Joe Brady.
Well, can I cut you off? If it's not Josh Allen, you saw that fiasco press conference between Pagula and Bean. Right. Which one of those knuckleheads? You got Mo, Larry, and Curly up there. Which one do you believe can make the final decision?
That's why I look at the Bills, and I think they might be stuck in purgatory at the same spot because they have plateaued with Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. And now they're trying to ask Joe Brady to take him over the hump, who is the definition of quarterback guy, offensive mind, who is really buddy-buddy with Josh Allen. But do you want somebody who's going to be best friends with your quarterback or somebody that's going to win you Super Bowls?
Right.
I go back to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Yeah,
they were not buddy-buddy. In fact, there was a little bit of healthy, I think healthy, a lot of people would say dysfunctional. I think there was a healthy tension that was there when Belichick, got a little bit agitated. Brady was getting too much access with his trainer. And hey, we need to you're just like everybody else, Tom. He would chew him out of practice just like he would everybody else. But he also held Brady to a standard of excellence that allowed that Patriots dynasty to flourish for 15 years. And I think it worked pretty well. But sometimes if you have somebody in there who's your buddy, they're not going to hold you to that standard. They're not going to get after you. They're not going to coach you hard.
Right.
And it's easy to just start coasting and being okay with being okay. Yeah. As opposed to, okay is not good enough. Yeah, we won our division. Yeah, we got to the AFC Championship game. And sure, you played great. Oh, we lost. No, you need somebody who's going to push your franchise to the next level. And maybe Joe Brady is the guy. I would love to see it. But I don't think they went about it looking for the best option available. They went with somebody to keep Josh Allen happy, which I think is a mistake.
And that's how it goes all the time right now. Unfortunately, I hate to say it like this, in the ESPN TV era, that's how it goes. And those guys who are buddies and are boys with the players, they seem to always win the opening press conference. And then at the end, they find themselves on the short end of the stick. I look at the guy, Robert Saleh, that was just hired in Tennessee. When he came to the Jets a couple of years ago, man, did he look like he had everything. Yeah. He had that San Francisco defense firing on all cylinders. He's a younger, handsomer dude. He's jacked. He runs the stadium steps before. He chest bumps the players as they come off the field. But then when it came down to nut-cutting time, when things weren't going well and you needed a grown-up in the room to tell the players, like, guys, time to be fun and have a great time comes with winning. It's not being prepared for games, and it's not losing game after game and week after week. You hope a guy like Saleh has recognized that after his first go-around failed, and now he comes in, and hopefully he can make that change. He's saddled now with a young quarterback again, a young team like that again, and they just brought in Brian Dable, which is pretty interesting because I think Brian Dable he sort of exemplifies a lot of what you were talking about with the quarterback and the player maybe being cool with each other and having like a mutual respect, but it did seem like, when it was time to tighten things up, he could tighten things up. That's why I thought he might get a shot at that Buffalo job.
Me too.
But they passed him over.
But I do think he's also, some coaches are just better coordinators. They're just not meant to be head coaches.
Definitely.
And I would put Mike McDaniels in that category, who now is an offensive coordinator with Chargers. I mean, maybe he can develop into that. But he hasn't looked like he's changed much. His quirky press conference, he's got the fun quotes, and he's kind of different. He's unique. I think he is more of an offensive mastermind than a leader of men. And the experience in Miami kind of told you that. So I don't know. But when you look at this class of coaches as a whole, how uninspiring is it?
There's a couple of big names, but a lot of them seem like I don't know, man.
Older?
Yeah, like the game's almost passed them by. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't even know if I'd use the word retread with a guy like a Tomlin who I thought would be up for a job, but I think he's going to chill for a year. Harbaugh, I don't know if I constitute Harbaugh. You can consider John Harbaugh a retread?
No, I consider him the best hire of the cycle.
Definitely.
You know, like, because he's
Definitely, I agree.
got the chops. He's got a long track record. I think he's exactly what the Giants need. They need somebody with credibility in a young locker room who they'll look up to and they'll snap to attention and be like, all right. And they believe that they can win with him. And I thought it was the best fit of all of these.
Yeah.
I'm talking more guys like Saleh.
Yeah.
Even Mike McCarthy, who's been out for a little bit. I'll be curious to see how it works in Pittsburgh. You know, they're trying to run it back. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers comes back to play with his old coach. But that, to me, is more of a retread. Although he's been a winner.
Yeah.
It just has been a little bit longer since we've seen him have that success. And it's hard to win in Dallas with Jerry looking over you, and they've had some success there. But I just don't know how many of these hires really invigorate a fan base.
Yeah, I found that McCarthy. See, like the McCarthy one to me could be interesting, but if you look at it, like that Steelers history is 3 coaches in like 60 years.
Yeah.
Noel to Cowher to Tomlin. And if you remember back, I didn't realize until I read this that Tomlin was 52 when he left, and Cowher was like 51 when he left.
Oh, yeah.
And now McCarthy comes in at 62.
Right.
So despite the fact that those first 2 guys were there for ages, it seemed like they really weren't old by the end. So it didn't seem like the game passed them by. Like they could still kind of relate to the players. Mike McCarthy's a whole different world now. 62, been out of the league for 2 years?
Yeah.
He hasn't coached in 2 years. And he didn't have much success in Dallas. It's going to be interesting to see, man. But again, a complete 360. That's different than they said in Buffalo. Like, you want to see a change, they brought in a different coach. You know, we're going to see something completely different there and see what works for them over there. But
yes,
pretty
and
interesting.
I mean, his press conference, the emotion she showed, like as a Pittsburgher, you know, with that accent, I think it's a good fit. One of the least inspiring, and this one pains me to say, was Jeff Hafley to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And I know Hafley. He was at Ohio State when I was covering college.
Okay.
I think Boston College, where he was a head coach in college, is one of the hardest jobs to win. Then he goes to Green Bay, has some success as defensive coordinator there. You know what my philosophy is, or my belief that the Dolphins did? I don't know how it ever worked with you. I've been out of the game for a long time, but I know from my time, you know, if you ever got heartbroken from a girl, or if you had a buddy who did, and maybe it was a really hard breakup, you know, if you had a girl that was maybe a tall blonde, skinny, and it didn't work out, you went like the total opposite direction, like a shorter brunette who maybe was a little bit different personality. Like you went with one who was a spark plug, then you went with somebody who's a little more shy. You just go completely the opposite direction.
Okay.
That is what the Dolphins did. They went from the tall blonde, you know, who's maybe a little bit airheady, and they went with the shorter brunette who maybe is a little bit smarter. That's what the Dolphins did with Jeff Hafley. Could not be more opposite of Mike McDaniel, fun guy who's going to give you some jokes. Hafley is all business, tightened up, intense, about as one of the intense coaches you could have. You went from offensive mind in McDaniel to a defensive mind in Hafley. I think they just went as far away from the Mike McDaniel like experience as they possibly could.
Well, I think the experience with Mike McDaniel was just like it was the way that it happened. It's like the way he seemed to lose the locker room, the way it seemed like the players were kind of running the asylum. That's why I think going and bucking down with a tight, you know, no nonsense, all business guy might have been the move there. I didn't really think I got that feel from a Sean McDermott, right? I never felt like Sean McDermott let the players run wild, or he didn't have their ear anymore, or they didn't play hard for him. Like I got the feel. So being able to, you know, that going the same way there kind of makes sense. I think back to the girl thing. That's interesting. See, I have friends who would be like, okay, so I lost a tall blonde. I'm gonna make my old one jealous with another tall blonde.
Right.
One that kind of looks like her.
Some teams
That's
might
like
have a
we
type.
call that the Reggie Bush. That's the Reggie Bush,
yes,
where he
you
gets
might
rid
have
of
a
one
type that you like. I mean, typically I did like tall blondes. My wife is tall blonde, but you know, every once in a while. But I do think some teams do that. They want the exact opposite. Like they tried the offensive mind, now they're going to shake it up with a defensive mind. I do think that's what a lot of teams do.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.